to the Patriot Report with your hosts PeterSweden and Red Pale Phil, bringing you the most important stories from around the globe. Real news, independent journalism, giving you the truth about what is happening in our world today. 100% fan content, so you know that you're getting the unbiased news that you deserve.
Hello everyone and welcome to this latest Patriot Report with me, PeterSweden, and my co-host Red Pill Phil. We have quite a few interesting things to cover today, especially regarding the foster care story that's been in the UK here. The Christian girl that was taken into foster care by she was in a Muslim family, basically kidnapped by the state. We got a few things to cover from Sweden as well. So welcome everyone to this live stream, and Red Pill Phil is also here on the line today, unlike last stream.
Sorry. Bad connection.
Yeah, it was a bit technical difficulties there last time.
Yes, probably an 18th century router. I think that was a problem. Yeah, managed to sort it though. Managed to be back. Hi guys. Hi everyone.
Excellent. Yeah, I think everyone's happy that you're back.
Oh, nice.
Hang on, let me just tweet out a link to this as well, so people can find it. Hang on, just give me one moment. Yes. Well, there we go. Yes. So, there's been a lot of stuff happening last few weeks. I think we shall kick it off with with this Christian girl that was taken into foster care by the UK state. Let me just go through the facts here quickly. I'll just put up a photo here on screen as well, so you guys can see from the headline from the Times, which actually published this story. So, Christian child forced into Muslim foster care. The girl had a cross removed and was encouraged to learn Arabic. A white Christian child was taken from her family and forced to live at the niqab-wearing foster care in a home where she was allegedly encouraged to learn Arabic. I'll also bring up, I also have another photo of the girl here. I'll just bring it up quickly. So this is the girl here. She was she was taken from her parents by the state in Tower Hamlets and put into a Muslim foster family. And a social worker, she said that she had seen the girl sobbing and crying because she said that the foster parents, quote, didn't speak English. She was very upset. And this is despite the parents of the girl. They begged the council in Tower Hamlets to have the child put with her grandparents instead of with the Muslim foster family. And this girl is just 5 years old. So this is, basically state kidnapping, if you ask me. Just putting the child with, basically taking the child from a Christian family, 5-year-old girl, putting her into the state comes in, takes the child, puts her into a Muslim family, and has her to learn Arabic, removes her cross. She's really upset, and they refuse to put her with the grandparents, even though the parents were begging them to do it. And now, after all the media outrage, a judge finally ruled that the child should be put with her grandparents, which is but this is an exceptional case that they put the family with her grandparents after the judge. Well, it was just because of the media outrage. There's many as a standard. The UK, the foster service, I think it's CPS, something like that. They the Child Protection Services. as standard, they refuse to put the children with their grandparents. They always put them with a foster family. But it was an exceptional case because of all the media outrage. A judge ruled that they should get her back. So what do you think, Phil?
Lunacy, Peter. Again, we're seeing it, aren't we? I mean, it's non-compatible faiths. How can you put two scenarios like that together and expect the child that is young and impressionable, and supposed to be nurtured and ready to grow up into, you know, the society? It's just not going to work if at the very point that she's put into that system that she's not compatible faith.
No,
it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think what we're seeing here is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the foster service, and not just the UK, but in most Western countries. It's basically, I've been researching this quite a lot and looking into it, and it seems to me that there is an organized state kidnapping of children going on here. Because if you look at how many children are actually taken each year in the UK, it's 32,000 children taken each year into foster care. And I actually had the statistics of the ethnicity of the children that are being taken. And believe it or not, well, it's probably not a big surprise, but Muslim children they basically don't take any Muslim children. They only take non-Muslim children, more or less. I have the statistic here in front of me. Just give me one moment.
Which will probably explain, Peter, why they're kind of reluctant to hand them over to, you know, a blood relative. They're quick to just throw them into the, you know, the system. Yeah. Which logic tells you that they would consider the blood relative first, unless there's circumstances regarding, you know, there's been a violent past or whatever. I could understand that, but you can imagine that in this case, that probably wasn't the case. It was just a strict policy, a protocol, and let's just put her in a family that's incompatible at every point.
Yeah, it's. I have the statistic here is the number of children, number of white children being taken into foster care in the UK is around 70%. Number of black children are around 10%. Number of mixed race are about 10%, and the number of Muslim children are less than 5%. So this is actually the 5% is Asian, so that it goes both Japanese, Chinese, India, Pakistan, all of those ethnicities. Less than 5%. So less than 5%, probably not more than 2% Muslim, I would guess. 2-3% are taken into foster care. The Muslim population is a lot more than that, so proportionally they don't take. I mean, they take proportionally a lot fewer Muslim children, I think, than white children. That's what it seems like. You know, imagine this was the other way around. If they took a Muslim girl, put her into a Christian family.
Can you imagine, Peter, what would be going on there? It would go absolutely insane. You know, the outcry. It just wouldn't work at all. So it's how when intelligent people can see how this is so flipped, but yet they're not being allowed to criticize it, because as soon as they do, the racist card gets pulled, and that's unfair. And I'm a person of different shades saying that. It's totally unfair. I'm not sticking up for anyone. You would expect the same treatment regardless, really, and it just doesn't seem that way. It seems the stats don't bode very well. I mean, it's horrible. I mean, you would imagine, I would love to see a scenario where you don't have any taken from any ethnicity, really. No. I mean, but them figures probably don't tell the whole story, you know what I mean? As in family backgrounds and this, that, and the other. It goes a lot deeper. So you can't take too much from it, but obviously the demographics speak for themselves. Now, it's that political correctness that's making that well, we better not go too near certain ethnicities.
It might be, my suspicion is that white children are more popular to take because they are in high demand. than other races. That's what I think. Some people told me. One person who was going to adopt a child, she was looking to adopt a child. She told me that the price, there are actually different prices for different races of babies. White children were much more expensive to adopt than black children, for example, and Muslim children, which is kind of. They talk about all this racism. Isn't that a bit, all this equality, isn't that a bit strange that they price the children differently based on skin color? That seems a bit racist, don't you think?
Well, yeah, of course, on the face of it, and it's hypocritical. But then that brings out the bigger question, really. You hear about people who want the babies genetically a certain way with certain traits, certain skin tones, certain this, that, and that. So I guess we are turning into that society, and it's just sad that any kid goes up for any price. Friggin' hell. To me, there's actually that kind of a table up there. Just shows how kind of sadistic. I mean, that's another avenue you could go down really with it. I just think with children, they are the future, aren't they? So for people just to categorize them now as prizes almost, and this one's got a lighter tone, so that one's worth a bit more. It's shocking. It's absolutely shocking that the whole system's geared around, if what you're saying is true, let's get more white kids because they're worth more money or whatever. It's sad.
The thing in the UK is that they like to take the children as young as possible. From the statistics that I have seen, they actually, even in some cases, or in many cases, they go straight to the mother and takes a child basically as soon as the child is born, because the babies are worth more when they are young babies for obvious reasons, and they take them just as soon as they're born. And the thing in the UK is the only state in the world that actually gags parents whose children has been taken into foster care. And the thing is, there's a special clause in the UK where the child protection services can take children for risk of emotional abuse in the future. So if they deem there's a risk of emotional abuse, and what do they deem as emotional abuse? Well, one thing that's emotional abuse is, for example, if I remember correctly, it was if the child doesn't feel like they get enough love, or if they don't, or if they have muddy clothes, I believe was one definition that I saw somewhere. That's emotional abuse, and they can take the child for it.
You might as well come and pick my kids up now then. Really. Every day of the week there'll be something that will kind of come into that category somewhere down the line. It's like they've lowered the boundaries in which they can kind of deem it acceptable to take the kid. Now, that's, to me, you can look at it in, well, we've got to protect the kids. That maybe that's the Trojan horse kind of message. Do they want the kids? That's the bigger kind of message. They obviously want the kids. It's not about helping the kids, because if it was about helping the kids, they would be trying to rehouse the kids in the right frame, that would suit that kid. I know every kid's individual, but at least you would start. One of the big criteria is the same frigging faith, surely. So that's, the more you look into it, the more you kind of can delve and go, well, is there a bigger plan?
But don't you think it's a lot better for the child to be with the parents, or at least someone in the family, rather than being put into some complete stranger's house? I mean,
it goes without saying. It certainly goes without saying, unless there's issues that have been brought up. But then them issues have got to be looked at rationally and realistically. Like you're saying, if a kid can turn around and say to a teacher, I'm not getting enough love at home, and that then constitutes all these mechanisms to come in, then that's a dangerous area for anyone to go down. You know what I mean? I remember there was policies back in the day where we could ring kids could ring a helpline called Childline. Now that's great, of course, but then it kind of opened the door up to a lot of parents getting blackmailed in order to say, I'm going to ring this. And I'm sure there was many phone calls where parents were just getting ratted out. So then the system then kicks into gear and you can't stop it then. So then they might look.
As soon as they've taken a child, it's almost impossible to get a child back. And one thing I spoke with a couple in Sunderland that I think, I don't know if you were there in Sunderland. I don't know if you met the couple that I spoke to. I think maybe you were in the vicinity there, but I did interview with them. You might have seen the video I did.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I think I have watched the video, but carry on. I'm sorry.
They told me that the child services came into their house and they said that you have to sign this paper here. You have to sign this paper here now, otherwise we're going to call the police. And so they, naive as they were, they signed the paper without knowing what it was, and it was a Section 21, which means they're signing away the child, saying that they're guilty, and they give away the child to child services. And after that, it's impossible to get the child back. And this is a tactic they use, and they threaten to call the police if they don't sign it. Sign it now, or we call the police. And they can just come and, I mean, it's crazy for the reasons that they take children. I mean, there's so many crazy stories that they take children for no good reason at all. As I said before, one guy who got the children taken away was because he might be a racist because he was in the EDL when he was younger.
Well, I mean, you can see the agenda. Like I say, when you lower the boundaries of the rules that you can then inflict, then not only is it a bit more Orwellian, but then it's just wrong for the child and wrong for the parents. And if there's no kind of system in place, even if you do feel that you've got the right to come in, that the next mechanism is the family members, if that's not even considered, then we can see what's going on. We can certainly see. And then the stats come into it and this, that and the other. I just find it shocking that they won't consider. I can only look at it through the eyes of being a father. And they could come in on any kind of small little tale that they've been told and then turn our life upside down. You know,
that's what they do. I mean, and I mean, if you look at statistics here of children that are taken into foster care, you see it's horrible statistics. 50% of girls that are taken into foster care are single mother within 2 years after they get the child themselves. 50% of prostitutes have been in foster care. 50% of inmates in young offenders institutions have been in foster care.
Well, it's not a hard sum. They've not got the mental stability anymore. It's totally been changed. They had to readapt to a new society. They've got to readapt to people that they don't know, they ain't got, you know, and I can only look at it through my eyes and think, what the hell? Even as an adult, that's a big thing to adapt to. So a child that needs encouraging, needs all the help and support from its family. And even if it's unjust, you know, they can probably see that as well. So if they don't seem to get that support, you can see how they then become vulnerable and they then might, you know, follow certain circles that kind of gravitate round these people and totally exploit them. It happened up here. There was a documentary series, 3 Girls, about 3 girls from Rochdale that were just totally abused by the system.
Yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, it was a shocking scenario that they were in. These were 3 girls that were wanting the most stable of homes. And they kind of, because of the moral fibre of the family, this, that and the other, they kind of could get away with murder and staying up and, you know, getting up to all kinds. And they gravitated around this one kebab shop. Shop guy kind of got onto the fact that these are a bit loose, these girls, who only school girls, didn't do anything at first. It also seemed to be nice and innocent and letting them sit in the back room, letting them chill out, you know, letting them have a few drinks when they shouldn't be drinking, they shouldn't be smoking. And then you could see, as the story kind of progresses, the grooming it was a slow grooming process, and then before you know it, it just changed for the worse, really. And you're hearing more and more of it. It's just a pity that we're not highlighting it. It's not being highlighted. I mean, a story that we're going to talk about, hopefully, at some point, about one of the migration minister, you know, trying to highlight certain problems and then gets blocked. So it's the wall that just comes up as soon as you want to talk about it. Even if you talk in the most delicate voice, you know.
And I think a lot of these children, there's something more darker going on. I think a lot of these children have probably been, at least some of them are being trafficked into pedophile rings and so on, most likely. I'm not saying Pizzagate stuff, but there's definitely something with elites and pedophile stuff going on, that's for sure. I mean, there's been loads of examples with children taken to foster care and they're taken into being abused by pedophiles and so on. And I mean, that's just a few stories. Imagine how much more is going underneath the surface when you start to dig.
Well, it's sad to say, Peter, but if you're a paedophile, then what's your best kind of job to be around? You know, and I'm not saying all teachers, but the teachers, you've got people that work with children on different levels, you've got foster children, you know, and all kind of psychotherapists and whatever profession. I'm not trying to say any of them are all guilty, but I'm just saying that a logical thinking, intelligent on the outside, maybe a clean-cut person who has got them paedophilic ways about them, they're going to logically think to themselves, well, I need to be in these kind of positions in order to fulfill. Yeah, and it's sad to think. I don't want to think that as a father. It repulses me actually thinking about it, but you can see through the different stories come out that they're closely related, and you know, photos are passed on, and she's worked for this, you know, school, and it's shocking, absolutely shocking that anyone would want to do that to children.
Yeah, I mean, you're a father. I'm not yet. I mean, if someone came to take your children, say if the Child Protection Services came and said, I don't know, you might be at risk of emotional abuse of your children for whatever reason. We're going to take your children. I mean, how would you feel? I mean, as a father?
Well, firstly, I think the way it's going at the moment is a very much a likelihood that it's going to happen. I mean, the more YouTube vids that I put up, I think they're going to start using that against me without too long. Mate, it would rip the family apart for that to happen. I can't see any family kind of holding on to your bearings, really, because the seas would get that rocky, and particularly when you've got a system that close ranks on you, and they won't listen to you, particularly when you hear stories that they certainly just cut off access. You know, so the system's letting you down. The press won't want to touch it for whatever reason, because they're probably, you know what side their bread is buttered, is a northern saying that we use. That was to happen to me and my family. You couldn't imagine much of a future. You can totally see how certain people can turn to alcoholism, can just split up, you know, can just totally psychologically be affected. And that's probably, even if you get to see your kid again, you might never get to see your kid again, and you've got to deal with that.
Yeah, the couple that I interviewed in Sunderland, I haven't seen their kids since 2015. Because some of these, that's the thing here in the UK, a lot of parents get gagging orders. They cannot meet the children at all. Even when the children are adult, apparently they cannot meet them either for some reason. I have no idea how that is able to work, but apparently that is, in a lot of cases, they're not allowed to meet their children ever, even when they're adults. There was one case in Scotland where a mother, so this her child she had actually turned 20 years old, and she had a gagging order, so she wasn't allowed to meet the child. So they put gagging orders on her, so they're not allowed to meet children even when they're adults. So she had 20 years old. She met her daughter on I think it was on a train, or it was in the village. I think it was on a train, and they they just happened to meet each other, and they gave each other a hug and talked to each other a little bit. And she was arrested and put in jail for 3 months.
What?
And this was an adult child, 20 years old, with the adult mother. But she had a gag. She had a gag order. She's not allowed to meet her child for life.
I mean, what right have they got to be so intrusive? What right? I mean, that's the first thought.
The child's an order. She should be allowed to do whatever she wants. I mean, she's
exactly.
her mother. I mean, what?
It's Orwellian. It's so.
And this is happening right
into people's lives and extracting of their liberties. I mean, once you become an adult, you can certainly do what the hell you like. The authorities haven't got any jurisdiction. You're not breaking any law. You're not doing anything, that is committing an offence. So stay the frig out of my life and leave me alone. I mean, to be arrested, even further, it's like, we've made this silly rule now, so we've got to follow it through, even though we know it's ridiculous. And they just keep going and going. And where do they stop? I mean, what do you want to do? Arrest every family member as well? Because by association, they're attached by blood, so let's arrest them too. I mean,
I think that when I first heard the story, I was really shocked. I mean, an adult child, 20 years old, she is not allowed to meet her mother even though she wants to, and the mother is not allowed to meet her daughter even though she wants to. The state comes in and says, no, sorry, you're not going to be allowed to meet each other ever again. That's what that's going on right here in the UK, and it's not the case.
Surely there's a human rights thing going on there as well. The flip to that is that you've got migrants, refugees, economic migrants, whatever you want to piss and call them. You've got them floating in and out of all the European countries. You've perfectly shown it. They're giving leaflets stating that you've got all these rights now, all these numbers. Any problem, you call this. No problem, we'll sort it out for you. But yet, you've got someone who is a citizen, wrong by the citizen for starters for being in that scenario, you could argue, because it is kind of wrong when it should be maybe put with a family member, and then for the system to kind of just latch on and not let go, because that's essentially what's gone on here. It's like they've gone, right, well, now you're in the system, we're not going to let you go. Even though you're an adult, we're still not going to give you your control back, which is wrong. But yet they'll allow people of all ethnicities to come in that, we've got to feel sorry for and pay for to a certain degree. But they've got all the freaking human rights. Now, I'm not saying they're not entitled to it. And that's a different scenario altogether. But certainly cases like that just display how wrong our system is.
Yeah, I mean, the government comes in and decides. I mean, I just have one answer to that. This flag back here. I mean, that's
your lovely one on the back of your door, or the lovely curly snake in the back.
Which the yellow one? Don't tread on me. That's my answer. And also, I mean, both of these flags I have are military flags from America when they fought the British. Both are anti-government flags.
Oh, wow, mate! I'm surprised they're not kicking down your door in now for displaying them flags. That's censorship right there.
Yeah. Now, by the way, this is not a violent flag. It's not a call for violence. It's just a anti-government flag. It seems a bit provocative, but that's what they meant to do. It's not a violent flag. It's just an anti-government flag, a rebellious flag, you can say, against the government.
Well, I think we've all got to kind of exercise some kind of civil disobedience, stroke rebellion. If we don't do it now, we're going to have to do it over the next few years. Now, I'm not saying let's call for a movement of any kind, but let's face it, the system, with all cases, no matter whether we're talking about this or whatever we're talking about, the system is letting us down in so many levels now, and people are waking up. So it is coming to the point where you're going to have to take your stance.
The thing is, if you take any direct action, then the government comes down on you very hard, and because it's illegal, basically.
Which will only nurture it even more. You know, yeah, you will get. I mean, even if you do get the classes of dissidents, and then you've got people that are just normal and quite upset the society of being, you know, living in an Orwellian world. So you could say that people that might think like us might be regarded as dissidents, extremists, which we are. It is getting that way, unfortunately. You know what I mean? The framing that anyone with a free mind and critical thinking now is a dissident.
I think the solution is doing what I'm doing here, what we are doing here, media informing people so that they can wake up and peacefully vote for a different solution. That is what we want.
People power. People power. It will always work, and yeah, even a political process for me, I've got doubts in, because I think they're all kind of puppets to one degree or another. You know what I'd love to see in politics, Peter, and then I'd really have more faith in it. I don't know whether you ever watch snooker, but nowadays in snooker, and the same in Formula One, which is a sport I'm not into, but I know they do it. The cars have all got their sponsors and they're people that you know have invested money into that car being in the position that it's in, i.e., you know, Castro, whatever kind of sponsors that might be. So you've got a visual aid there telling you, you know exactly who's representing you, but who's giving the money. So I'd love, just like with snooker players have the same thing now. They have kind of sleeves, and even tennis players, I guess, do it to a certain degree. But I'd love to see politicians with them kind of logos representing all the lobbyists, all the people that have propped them up, that have invested money. And then when they get on that podium and they're talking to the populace with whatever bill that they want to pass, or whatever speech, you can assess that speech looking at what they are wearing. I.e., if they're talking about pharmaceuticals and you see a logo that, you know, maybe pharmaceutical company has invested heavily in this politician, then you can imagine that what he's going to say, you can take with a pinch of salt. I mean, obviously, that's the obvious reason why they don't do it. But for me, it would restore my faith in politics. Instead of all the backdoor stuff that goes on that we don't know about, all the blackmailing, you know, all the paedophilia that kind of runs round it, and the sexual stuff, the deviant stuff that goes round that is then used for blackmail. You know, that really is what runs politics, the corruption. Oh yeah, and everyone can see that now, and it's a shame. So bring on the patches. That's what I say.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. good example. Yeah,
it will happen. I think there'll be that many patches. There'll be like a patchwork quilt suit, you know what I mean? You'll have money from everywhere kind of splattered all over. You won't even be able to see the face, it'll just be all over the place. It'll be ridiculous. You'll probably have one big sign. You know, the major donor. I'm not going to say any names at this point, but, you know, it's ridiculous. So you can see why they want to keep that quiet.
I mean, I just remind of, have you seen Rodrigo Duterte, the president of the Philippines? He said that he told the press that he has thrown a few corrupt people out of helicopters in his life, and he will start doing it again here if need be in the Philippines. Right. So throwing corrupt politicians off helicopters, like Pinochet style. Imagine if he came to the UK and did his work here. I mean, you would be having bankers and politicians just flying everywhere around.
The airspace would be so contaminated. I mean, we'd have to down all the aircraft. I mean, you'd have to straight away convert it from a helicopter and then take it out to sea. Well, not even a helicopter. You'd have to get an aircraft carrier, take it out to sea, load it up with all these renegades that have just been raping the system for so long, and just do a mass burial of them all. You know what I mean? That's
a massive shift that would happen.
You wouldn't be able to be so many helicopters throwing people out of all different ranges and capacities. You know, where would you start?
Yeah. Oh, and one thing as well, talking about this Muslim foster care thing. One thing I saw on the BBC. Let me just bring up a screenshot here so you can see what the BBC had an article the day after. The day after the girl was taken into foster care, the BBC had this article, basically saying this Muslim girl has been in foster care for 25 years, and they did an article. This is on the front page. Did an article here showing this. This is a Muslim foster carer. She's been for 25 years. She's been very good, and so on and so on. I mean, basically, it's and they put this on the headline on the first page the day after. So basically, this is propaganda,
of course,
full time, just trying to shape the narrative.
Yeah, just try to be apologists straight away.
Yeah, they are.
They are shocking. The BBC are one of the worst outlets, mate. This is why some of the news that you're telling me, I'm hearing it first time, because particularly because of the BBC, I particularly don't watch TV now. I don't watch news because they frame narratives all the time. It's hard to soak up, and it's hard to know that with BBC, I'm actually paying for that. We have a license that we've got to pay. Yeah,
I would say get rid of a TV license. Don't pay them any money for this stuff that they are pumping out. I mean, it's
it's wrong. I mean, there was one time I watched it not so long back. I'd sat and made a lovely breakfast for the family, and they know what I'm like. They know how I react. I don't even watch the news now because times in the past I used to go mad because I got critical and I was like waving my finger and da-da-da-da-da. So I kind of thought, you know what, I'm not going to kind of lose it. I'm not going to watch the news. It just does my head in because I know how they framed it and I know the deceit in what they're saying. So when you sat in front of someone that's not seen other sides to the story, they think you're just a raving lunatic when you react like that to certain stories. But when you know that they've totally framed the narrative and they're brainwashing people, so it's like the BBC are the ones worse for it. So I'm sat, we're having breakfast, which was a lovely full English, might I add. It was absolutely amazing. But BBC, they were doing the Film of the North run. I think it's Newcastle. They do it annually. And I just thought to myself, let me see if they can actually show this program without Muslims being in it. Now, not to say that I really don't want to see Muslims, but let me just see if they can kind of just show it for what it is, just a run. Or let me see if they kind of have this social engineering end to it. Oh, we've got to slip in the Muslim narrative, this, that, and the other. And before you know it, they zoomed in. They not only located the girl, but they must have obviously done a kind of puff piece on her, because then it beamed down to the location where she was from, which was Somalia. So then my first tale of Somalia, I think, is pretty nasty stuff that goes on there. And I'm not condemning the whole population of Somalia by any means, but there's a lot of nasty stuff that goes on in North Africa, so we've got to call that. But the way they framed it, it was a lovely, happy piece on her. She's lovely and smiley with a pair of trainers on and a little spandex, ready to do the run. And it's like, well, you're kind of taking a traditional march there, and you're politicising that. You're politicising what is a normal run for the most of the population. Now, most people probably wouldn't see that, but then you think, well, psychologically, they're trying to use that to get the sympathy vote, getting people to acquiesce to Muslims being normal. And I don't see that as a wrong thing, but when they do it on such a manipulative scale, they're not doing it organically.
No.
They're not doing it like that. No, and that's what social engineering, that's a total different thing, and that's why I hate the BBC. Hate it.
And it's not just the BBC, it's all of the mainstream media. They all have manipulate just fake loads of things that they do. I mean, you saw the one in the CNN one down in London, where they put together a own protest behind the scenes, and they just filmed that. And did you see that one?
In London, yes, where they literally, it was filmed.
They just
wheeled Yeah, totally manipulated.
They made up a protest with some Muslims after the attack in London.
Shocking, embarrassing, but they're still here.
Yeah.
They're still beaming out to countries all over the world with their narrative.
Yeah.
But yet they've been outed. But yet their tool is so strong where they've been able to withhold the negative stuff, hence what we talk about, censorship and all the rest of it. That's why they're closing the grip, because they want this Orwellian message to be pumped out. You know, anything that we're saying and doing now is a blockage to the system, isn't it? You know what I mean? And it's sickening.
Yeah, I mean, the media is the biggest enemy of freedom and truth, I would say. And that's why you should get rid of your TV license and maybe support this show instead. It's 100% fan-funded. It's, we couldn't do this without you.
Try and say it as we see it, Peter. I mean, that's the only way you can kind of judge things now. And try and say it as you see it, as an independent thinking person. Not try and follow any kind of collective narrative that this peer group says that you should think that, this peer says that. You know, it's a crazy way. You'd be thinking of, you know, how many different avenues would we be going down now if we had to think about all the different, ideals that we should be following. Just be your freaking self. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference between the BBC. They have an agenda. We are just independent guys just saying our minds. I mean, yeah. Should we go on to the next topic here before it gets today? We've been talking about this quite a long time. We drifted off a bit here.
No problem. Let's go for it.
And guys, everyone who's viewing, thank you so much for tuning in. Please leave a like. Please give this video a like. It's good for YouTube rating. Subscribe if you haven't done so. And if you want to support the show, you can use the super chat or use or there's a link to PayPal and Patreon down below as well. And also make sure to go and subscribe to Phil's YouTube channel as well. I don't think I have the link here at the moment. I'll put the link here as soon as I can. So you guys go and subscribe to him as well. You can just search Red Pill Phil channel on the search bar in YouTube and you will find him. I'll put the link here as well as soon as I can. Yes. So the other thing I want to talk about was Sweden and Norway. There's been a bit of attention here recently. Sweden, the Swedish and Norwegian migration ministers were supposed to have a meeting here the other day. Let me just bring up a photo of them so you can see what they look like. If I can just find it. I have it here somewhere. Just give me one moment. Oh, here we go. Yes. So the Swedish and Norwegian migration ministers were due to meet here recently to talk, well, I guess to talk about migration. By the way, before we all continue, can you guess which one is the Swedish migration minister and which one is the Norwegian migration minister? The Swedish, I'll give you the Swedish one is a member of the Socialist Party. The Norwegian one is a member of a populist party. Have a guess who is who?
Do I get the first guess here, Peter?
Yeah, you guess first. I'll let the guys in the live chat guess as well.
Right. I'm just going to go off my powers of perception. I'm going to assume that this lady on the left with the glasses, with the lovely floral blouse, I'm going to assume that she is more liberal leaning. That is an assumption. That's a stereotype, and that is an awful stereotype. So if you've got a floral blouse out there, I don't assume that you're liberal, but I'm just piecing it together that she's probably more liberal-minded. Hence, the right, she kind of looks a bit like more no-nonsense and like she just says it as she sees it. I haven't heard any of them speak, so I might be totally inaccurate with that. But that's what I'm saying just by looking at them two photos.
The Swedish girl is more liberal. The Norwegian one is much more right-wing. So yes, I'll see if the guys in the live chat here got it right. Oliver here says left.
Oh, you're going to leave me hanging on, Peter? You're not going to let me know?
The left is Swedish, right is Norwegian. This person guess.
Am I right then?
The one on the left is the Swedish one.
There you go.
So the one on the left with the glasses is the Swedish migration minister, who has been letting in, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands migrants the last years. The other one is the Norwegian one, who hasn't let in almost any migrants at all. So the controversy here is that the Norwegian migration minister, the one on the right, the one that's more attractive looking, I would say, Sylvie Listhaug, she said that Sweden has 60 no-go zones, and that that's a big problem. She's not going to let Norway become like Sweden. And she also said that Sweden is in a horror crisis at the moment. So yes, they were going to have a meeting, and the Norwegian minister was actually going to go to one of the no-go zones in Sweden to see how bad it actually is. And she was also going to have a meeting with the Swedish migration minister at the same time. And the Swedish migration minister decided to cancel it because she is too controversial.
Yeah, do you think? I can't see the dinner time conversation going too well. I mean, it's, if you're talking a red and blue camp, it's like having a midget for a boxer against like a Mike Tyson or something. It's just two totally opposing views there. So politically, obviously, with what you're saying, with what's going on in Sweden, down straight away.
The Swedish media is going a little wild over this Norwegian girl as well. They say that she is Norway's Trump.
So everything's been put into categories again. Trump equals Hitler, Nazi. So by that one word, you've kind of associated her with, I've not even listened to her.
No.
If I'm supposed to listen to that.
I quite like her. She seems very, very reasonable. I mean, she says that she won't allow Norway to become like Sweden. She calls out the big problems with arsons and the rapes and everything going on in Sweden with the no-go zones. She's actually been calling it out.
If I was a citizen of Norway, Peter, that's exactly what I want my politician to be saying.
Yeah.
And if she's getting stick abroad, it wouldn't please me at all, but I'd want her still to do it, And if countries are kind of cancelling meetings because of it, then you can see where their agenda is,
And the other thing that's a bit strange. I mean, that's not what you do in diplomacy. You don't cancel a meeting with someone just because they're too controversial. I mean, come on, what's going on? I mean, this is the migration minister of Norway and the Swedish migration minister.
Well, diplomacy is all about talking. It's all about sitting and let's, speak about our differences. You've got such staunch views, but over diplomacy, we should be able to thrash out a common ground, come to a compromise. That's what it's all about. So obviously they want to look like Norway is the bad guy. By cancelling this. It's like they're calling out to all the liberal countries to say, look what we've done. We've just said she is Hitler, so we're not having this meeting.
But Norway, they haven't taken in nearly as many migrants as Sweden. They haven't taken in many at all, actually. And recently they deported quite several thousand migrants as well. They deemed Afghanistan safe enough to deport migrants to, so that's what they're doing now, deporting migrants back to Afghanistan. And surprise, surprise, the crime in Norway has gone down. I wonder why.
Well, yes, it's not hard. It's like 1 + 1 might equal 2. In this case, it's a pretty basic sum. It's not a harsh or racist thing. It's common sense. Yeah. Common sense. Yeah. We should be doing the same thing to a degree, where people can go back. They go back.
Yeah. A big shout out here, by the way, in the live chat here to Joel Dahl from Finland, who donated here, helped support the show. Thank you a lot there. He says, good job, Peter, from Finland. Thanks a lot there for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. It's 100% fan-funded this. I couldn't do it without you guys, so really appreciate that. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm doing shout. Everyone who uses the live chat, donates in live chat, gets a big shout out.
And so they should, Peter. So they should.
Yeah. And I can also add from the story with the Norwegian thing as well. The Swedish fake news, the mainstream media in Sweden, several mainstream media, including the state-owned media, they have claimed that the Norwegian government called Sweden's government and warned them of of the Norwegian migration minister that she was controversial or something, which is really strange. Why would the Norwegian government call the Swedish government and warn them of their own government? That doesn't really make sense. And but that's what the fake news media in Sweden has been claiming. And surprise, surprise, the Norwegian government has gone out and said, no, that's not true. We didn't do that at all.
I mean, it's like that headline there. I mean, that statement makes it sound like she like Xena, the warrior princess, or something. She's coming to slay a few Swedes. It's like, come on, what's going on? It's obviously they're trying to pump it up, like, you know, she is. Obviously, they want to turn the political way of thinking in Norway, so they're trying to break that way of thinking. So they're obviously isolating her now and making her sound like an extremist, doing a Le Pen on her. You know, you're on your own there. All the neighbouring countries, we're all liberal. You're on, you know, try and change that way of thinking, and maybe the populace in the country will start to believe that she is actually that. It is. It's misinfo. It's disinfo. It's playing with people's heads and manipulation.
Well, I think it's probably good that Sweden did this, because they're actually having an election here in 10 days in Norway, the general election, and. If the Swedish media attacks one politician in Norway, I think you can bet that that's going to boost that politician's chance of winning in Norway.
Yes.
What are these Swedes? What do they think they're doing? Trying to say this to us? Oh, no.
Oh, what crazy situation. I mean, you know, in the real world, mate, we should not be here, should we? We should be kind of living a nice little life, not having to... You pull yourself out of your life. You're a young lad, should be, you know, aspiring to do all kinds of creative things. You're a creative kind of guy, not kind of pulling government to task because it's so corrupt, so, you know, full of hypocrisy. It's unimaginable, and then trying to get that message out to a public that's acquiesced to it and sedated to it. That should not be the scenario we're in at all. You know what I mean? I'm sat here and I agree with you, this show, and it's great, but it's like I'm listening to it and I'm trying to soak it up as a human being. I'm thinking that it's not that even we could do a story full of great stories, and that, in a sense, that still wouldn't offset. We still have a system that is monopolizing and manipulating, gaming us all. And getting people to do this now, getting people to kind of talk their political views, when in reality we shouldn't even need a frigging government, because life should be great, you know. But we're only in it because society's gone down the toilet.
The ideal would be a libertarian government, very small government, and so on. That would be the ideal for me. But the problem is when you have this leftist going around thinking that's not something they want, then you need to have a government to be able to fend them off, really. I mean, that's the problem.
Well, yeah, and they've structured governments now where they're totally justifying the need for more and more government, and they're convincing the public that that's what we need. We need to centralise more and more. We need to set more and more control, and people go, "Oh, okay then." And if now there's a small population just saying, "Well, no, we don't," and obviously they can see that as a threat. Because the last thing they want is more people listening to people like us. So
so make sure to share this with all your friends, guys, to listening, so we get more viewers.
The more and more, and questioning. You know, everyone questions, even if in reality, Peter, nobody likes us, nobody puts that thumb down, but yet it's made them question on certain policies that we've spoke about, made them maybe disagree with us, but they're halfway in between. If they've shifted off the main narrative and questioned it for themselves, that's what everyone needs to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was just thinking of something. So the upcoming election in Norway, that's on 11th September. And I'm actually going to have, Norway is much more right-wing than Sweden. There's a populist party that is in coalition government at the moment. That's the party that this Sylvie that we talked about, that she belongs to. But there's also a new party in Norway called Alliansen, which is a very proper right-wing party, a real right-wing party, I would say, not any of these fake right-wing parties. They just started. This is the first election, so they're very small. But hopefully they might be able to grow and get more support. I'm actually going to interview the leader of the party here on YouTube in a couple of days. So make sure everyone to tune in for that. They are a very right-wing party, I will say. They're not Nazi or anything like that, but they are a proper right-wing party. So I definitely would recommend checking them out. They call Alliansen, so yeah, I'll be interviewing the party leader there on this channel in a couple of days. So make sure to tune in, everyone, for that. Now, just before, well, I think we're going to wrap this live stream up here in not too long time. What do you think, Phil?
Yeah.
I want to cover 2 more quick things from Sweden before we finish, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
10 minutes. So Sweden, 3 bombings in Malmö in just one night. 2 cars were blown up, and the balcony was blown up. I believe I have a photo of the car that was blown up here that I found on one of the Swedish. Yeah, and by the way, this didn't even make headline news in Sweden. I mean, it's crazy. 3 bombings in one city in one night. Here's one of the cars that was blown up. He got its bonnet blown off here. Yeah, so quite serious damage. And so 3 of them in one night in Malmö. I mean, what's going on?
Well, what's going on is that if you try to have a meeting with the Minister of Norway regarding the scenario, we're going to cancel it straight away, even though we're getting bombed. Be the mentality there, 3 times in one night. Hey, it doesn't matter. I don't want to speak to Miss Norway over there because that is hatred. You would have thought that they would be on the phone to Norway and going, sorry, I'm sorry, please, come on, we'll have that meeting now.
Yeah, but it's a help,
even if you've got your dressing gown on, don't worry about it. We've got a helicopter coming for you. And no, we're not going to throw you out the helicopter.
Yeah, I think Sweden could learn a thing or two from Norway.
They seem to have the right ideals, the common sense ideals. If something's happening, you've got to see it, call it as it is. You've got to close the gates. I imagine all this as a house party. Let's put it into a micro scenario like a house party. You've let in so many people in this house, music's rocking, 2 or 3 incidents happen, you don't quite know who they are, you've not vetted them. So the first thing you're going to do is get them out, sort out what's going on. The next thing you're going to do is vet everyone else that's in there, and you're going to make sure no one else can come in. It's a common sense approach. So you would imagine a country, a sovereign country, just looking out for its own needs, are going to adopt that same approach, because by magnitude, you're talking millions of people of these said countries unvetted. So even a micro, example of just a party that could have a potential of 50, 60 people plus in there, that 2% of that could be, if we're talking a whole population of people, the sheer number is frightening for the average critical thinking person, thinking, what the hell is going on? Why is my country doing this?
Yeah. No, I mean, by the way, just a quick, there's a live chat comment here, but I just want to, a guy from Joey Gassett here, he says that Red Pill Phil is so awesome. He wonders how we can support the show here without YouTube taking 70% of it. Well, if you use the super chat, the donation function that YouTube has, YouTube actually doesn't take anything of it, so you can use that. And that would 100% go to supporting the show. Or if you want to, you can see in the description box below link to the PayPal and Patreon if you want to use that instead.
Cheers.
Yeah, I think
nice one. It's lovely. Nice.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, if you want to support the show, we really appreciate it. It's 100% fan funded. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Sweden, I mean, would even class these bombings? I mean, these bombings in Sweden, they're not even classed as terrorist attacks. They're just gangs run by migrants running around doing these kind of things. I mean,
Right.
really, they should be classed as terrorist attacks. Really, I mean, bombings. I mean, that's really unheard of. I mean,
well, it's same again, common sense approach, because this minister is talking about certain ghettos or no-go zones within Sweden. So then you think, well, these guys have been able to run amok, undetected, things that may be regarded as bombs, or maybe even it's just been a petrol bomb, whatever. You would think in this society now with the surveillance systems that they should be pinpointed straight away. They're quick to give us the impression that anything you do, we're watching. Guys are doing all this. And when I say these guys, whoever it is, whether it's turned out to be, you know, whatever nationality. But then the logic is, if someone from another country mentions it, it's a common sense thing to go, yeah, you've got a point. So to me, we need to skip past the logic of the Swedish government, because we know the logic of the Swedish government.
The
destructive logic.
Logic doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. It's destructive, and it's destructive and improportionate, illogical, and a betrayal of the Swedish people.
Yeah, I mean, you see this person on screen here?
Yeah.
This is a politician in Sweden.
Right, okay.
In Gothenburg.
Right.
Is actually a woman.
I didn't say that. They're your words, not mine.
These are the people that are running Sweden. So you can't understand why Sweden is in a bit of a mess.
Yeah, she does look lefty. She does fit that criteria.
When you can't even tell whether it's a man or a woman, then it's a bit.
Yeah. Something, you know, you shouldn't have that, should you, in politics? But you should have someone who, even if you're right wing, you should be able to see things from a left and a right perspective and come somewhere in the middle. At least then you're not betraying yourself or either side. And that, you know, when you come in and you're so that way inclined, that you then can't appreciate the right side of thinking. So the best thing to do, rather than come at it with natural debate, how are the right going to feel? You're only going to make them more right, more nationalist, which then you can demonize them again and make them more racist, more Hitlerified. Keep using that same word. You know,
that's what happens when I go too far to the left. They get the pushback the other way, and that's what there was actually risk happening. You know, you might actually get real Nazis because they push too much to the left.
Yeah, and that's, in a sense, you could think to yourself, well, they probably want that. They probably want that. The order out of chaos theory. You can see how they're stoking it up and they're just playing everyone. Even if you get the sophistication of what's going on, you still can't help but get involved in it, because it still kind of pees you off when you're hearing this, when you're seeing socially things are going down. When you see that your heritage of your country is kind of being eroded and no one's listening to it, so you're going to. And they're going to kind of go, well, you're wrong to think that. You know, you can't even eat a sausage in certain countries nowadays without that being frigging hate speech. If you ask for sausage and chips, it's like, what's going on? I like the sausage.
Yeah.
So that disturbs me greatly. And I didn't mean that in any way that I do like the food. Sausage.
I don't like English sausage that much. I don't really like English sausage. I like Swedish hot dogs much better. Right. It's like in Sweden, we don't have the English sausage. We have German style hot dogs. I like them boiled. Very good stuff. Boiled hot dogs, perfect. With some what's it called in English? Kind of sweet and kind of a sweet and spicy mustard that they have in Sweden on a boiled hot dog. Perfect.
Okay, I'm open for offers, mate. If you want to send one over, I'm up to try it and critique it. I can't say anything.
They don't sell them here in the UK at all. They only have the sausage with all the herbs and spices. The Swedish ones, they don't have any herbs or anything.
Yeah.
It's plain.
It's a very personal thing, sausage, isn't it? I mean, there's so many different. I mean, just the very thing, sausage, and what can go into it can make your mind twizzle a little bit. So you've got certain firms that haven't got the integrity and that will throw everything in. You know, you get bits of shoelace and certain brands of sausage. You know, it's like. Oh,
I think
okay.
I saw on Alex Jones. They talked about some sausages that actually found human meat in. So that's a bit. That was in America. I doubt they do that in Sweden. In Sweden, they have some really good, high quality sausage in Sweden, which is like 82% meat in it, which are good quality ones.
Okay, what's the other 18?
I don't know. That's a bit of herbs, not much herbs, but they have water, I guess. Skin.
Yeah.
I think it's a skin casing. The other 18, most of them. Which
I've heard it. You can understand the food industry. I mean, the money they make, the produce, and it's so mass produced that you wonder the quality of the meat. And I've heard stories, I won't even say conspiracy stories, and some people have attributed certain missing children, certain animals. I mean, I've lived in Manchester and seen so many restaurants that have had to have been closed down because animals, you know, have been found in certain dishes. Your pets just all of a sudden, you know, you might see a poster of a missing cat. Next thing you know, you're eating your curry.
Well, I think it was somewhere in Rotterdam or somewhere in the UK. I can't remember where they raped a girl and put her in a kebab. Did you see that story? It was Rotterdam or somewhere. There was some Muslim kebab shop. They raped a girl and they put her in kebab meat and sold it.
I mean, see, this is it. It's the incompatibility of it all, isn't it? I mean, imagine that scenario. You've got two totally incompatible faiths there. One has obviously got so much contempt for the other one that they regard anyone who's in that other faith as just nothing. So then rewind back to that story about the UK child that gets adopted into a Muslim. Now, not to suggest that she's going to be ground up in a kebab, so I'm not saying that at all. But you just can't imagine that the mind frames are going to be compatible and compassionate and considerate between each other. You know, it's just not going to be. So why do it? You know, and it's shocking to see.
It's completely incompatible cultures, I would say.
You just don't do it. You know, and life is cheap, I guess, to these guys that are so extremist in nature and so jihadist in nature that they don't mind doing that. We've seen so many atrocities that they've kind of done, whether they're fake or whether they're real. I'm sure we've heard a lot of stories that are real about eating certain body parts, feeding certain body parts to certain people that they've captured before they've killed. And we've heard, you know, don't even want to talk about that too much, but so you can show the contempt of anyone that is not of that extreme faith. I'm not even going to say all Muslim. Probably people won't like me not saying all Muslim, but we're obviously talking about the extreme jihadist, Wahhabist side of it that is literally will boil children. That's how brutal and barbaric these people are. So
one guy in the comment section actually says that regarding this story that when the parents asked where their daughter was, they gave them free kebabs.
I've heard that, and I'm not. You know, there's so many different jokes, and it's not even worth going there because it's like it is true. It's shocking.
I think we've got a breaking story here right now. A policeman was knifed in Stockholm. Hang on. Today. It's not even on Swedish news yet. Let me see. Let's see if I find something about it.
So what time would it be in Stockholm at this time, Peter?
Let me see when this happened. This was today. A man stabbed and wounded a police officer in the neck, central Stockholm, on Thursday,
Right.
near a demonstration against deportation of unaccompanied minors. The officer was attacked at 30 minutes ago. Hang on, I'm just going to tweet a quick story about this on my Twitter feed. It's breaking news. Just happened 30 minutes ago. A guy stabbed a Swedish police officer in the neck in Stockholm. Hang on. Let me just tweet quickly here.
And this was at a anti-deportation rally.
Yes.
Anyone have they got a suspect?
Just see if I can find. Attack was completely unprovoked. Came in from behind. Might be a possible terrorist attack.
At an anti-deportation rally.
Yes, there's been some Afghans holding a protest in Sweden now for several weeks, where they're just a sitting protest where they have been sitting, and apparently at this protest a police officer was stabbed in the neck. Let me see if I can find some more information. It just happened half an hour ago. Let me see. It's not even on Swedish news yet. Strange.
Right.
Not in a state-owned media, at least. It seems it's just breaking just now. It's actually foreign media that's gone out with it first, what I can see. Let me see if I can find anything on Swedish news. Swedish news. I have to go to different websites here, see if I can find. Strange. Completely quiet about it. Here we are. Oh no, hang on. It happened. It happened. It wasn't tonight. It was actually this morning. It happened. I missed that. So it was apparently early this morning. Yeah, so apparently early this morning, a police officer was stabbed in the neck at the migrant protest. Apparently, yes, it wasn't. It wasn't now. It was about 12 hours ago, actually. That's strange. Because I've been on Swedish news, so I haven't seen anything on Swedish news about this. What's going on? Only some guy in the comments section in the live chat here alerted me to it, and then I saw it on foreign media. I didn't even see it on Swedish media.
Peter, just 1 second, mate. I just need to leave this link. 1 second. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no problem. Yeah, so Phil just had to go and do something there. Well, I think we're going to be wrapping this live stream up here shortly anyway. We need to move on. Well, that's strange because I didn't even find the news on Swedish news. I go to Swedish state-owned media. It's not even there, so it's really strange. But there is another article on the top headline on the mainstream media in Sweden. Apparently a Nazi drove a car against asylum seekers in Malmö. That's a headline in Sweden, but not stabbing. Really strange. Yeah, I was just saying here, Phil. one article that was that's a headline on the Swedish state media is actually an apparent Nazi drove a car against asylum seekers in Malmö last night, but a police officer getting stabbed in the neck with at the migrant protest. That's not even headline news.
What? I just can't imagine how it's not been. Why not? You know.
I mean,
it just doesn't make any sense. So you're suggesting there's been a deliberate blackout?
At least from the state-owned media.
Because you'd think they'd still report it, but they'd try and be as
the guy who stabbed the police officer, according to alternative media in Sweden, it was a Moroccan child refugee. A Moroccan child refugee stabbed a police officer in the neck from behind.
Remember the child bit. It could be, it could be documented as a child, but you know, it could be military age, so we can't read too much into that, I guess.
According to eyewitness, the guy looked like he was between 20 and 30 years old.
There you go. There you go.
Apparently, the police in Sweden went out with automatic weapons as well after attack. Yeah, it's apparently one of those Moroccan child kids, because in Sweden there's one thing that people don't talk that much about. In Sweden there's loads of Moroccan kids, so-called kids, are just walking around on the streets in Sweden selling drugs and so on. It's apparently one of these guys. They've been really causing a problem in Sweden recently. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, mate. I missed it. Has he been apprehended, or is he at large?
Yeah, he's been. It's apparently the second murder attempt on a Swedish cop within a couple of hours. During the night, another police patrol was attacked with rocks in South Stockholm. A guy was arrested for attempted murder against a police officer. He threw a rock from the 10th level. He was at in apparently apartment building. He was on the 10th floor and threw a huge rock down at the police officers on the floor, on the ground. The police car was smashed to pieces, and one rock was very close to hitting a guy in the car.
I mean, at what point do you say, Peter, this is enough? You know,
I mean,
no ghetto zones now. This is it. We've got to go in there. It might look the way it looks. Sometimes you've got to show a hard fist, surely. You've got people that are moving in, you've been generous enough to kind of bring them in, and this is what's happened. This is how much they've took your generosity and kind of shoved the fingers back up at you, really, when all you're doing is still bending to their needs. It's still
crazy.
Meetings being cancelled because you can't even consider the options of other nations next to you critiquing what's going on. You're still being complicit in it all, but you're still getting bricks thrown at you from 10 stories away, or 10 stories high. So it's like
children managing to throw rocks at you from 10 stories.
How crazy when they it's not like they're the Muslims or these people who are, you know, got these intentions of thinking, oh, nice one, at least you've got me back. At least I'll keep quiet out of the way. No, they still want to kill you. They still want to kind of do that to a police officer. That shows how much they regard you, or how little they regard authority. Whether you like the police or not, I don't think you're going to get too many people who are going to do that unless they've got a death wish of some kind, or they literally don't care.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, I don't really know what to say anymore at this point about Sweden. It's just too crazy at the moment. I mean, it's just going
more and more.
Yeah, it's just getting worse and worse.
But it's not just Sweden, Peter. Sweden is the template, maybe. I'm not sure on statistics, you know. I'm sure the rape capital, that's a lovely title to have, isn't it? You know what I mean? Yeah. But let's keep going. Let's keep bringing them in. And it just seems that Sweden is a place that all of Europe should be looking at. and should be doing maybe a more Norway's kind of stance, more Poland kind of stance, kind of going, right, let's this is a house party that's got out of hand now. We need to start throwing a few people out. We need to start sorting it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's well, it's well, something needs to be done, and I doubt that the politicians will do anything, to be honest.
We've got to say it, mate. It's looking like they're more and more complicit. So the only thing that's going to bring it out is civil disobedience or people revolting. Now, whether people do the civil disobedience in a law-abiding manner, that's a different matter. That's, for me, the way forward in any whatever's going on now, you know, this way of doing things. If we all decided we wasn't going to pay our tax at exactly the same moment, there's going to be a few people in the front line that are going to get hit, but at some point, the message will get out. So if we all, you know, that's, for me, people power. I don't think any e-petitions or anything, just literally get out on the streets. And if there's that many people, you know, I know a lot of people don't regard protests as very kind of effective, but if so many people are that pissed and they're literally saying, you know what, we've all collectively saying we're going to stop paying all utility bills, all council bills from this point onwards, and everybody done it.
That would be a peaceful way to do it. Yeah, I mean, that's,
Totally civil disobedience, because they're not going to listen to anything else. In order to kind of get into the political system and change it, I mean, the political system is that flawed and corrupt anyway. Even if you started at the bottom level with the best intentions, these guys will have you in such a scenario where you'll be singing their song before you know it. And we've seen it so many times. You know, it's for me, the civil disobedience, the kind of doing it lawfully, not being crazy, not being mad, but all being collective. And it's never going to work unless everyone is on it. But that's where we're at now, I guess. We can't get to the civil disobedience bit because there's only a few people, maybe the minority, because majority of people are still asleep, that are actually prepared to do it. You know what I mean? The minority are getting more and more prepared to do it, you know.
Yeah, it's I mean, if you look in America, the Black Lives Matters, and those guys are taking things into their own hands quite a lot.
I mean, well, they're protected, aren't they? It's all Mr. Soros that's kind of backing it all, and the media sticks up for him, and the judicial system backs up what they're doing. Everyone seems to kind of stand back and let them do it.
Yeah, it's I mean, I don't really know what to say.
No, well, there's not a lot to say, I guess, mate. I've probably framed it in a way that, okay, where do we go from here?
You said it pretty good, I think, yeah.
The world is a great place. Oh, Jesus.
What do you think? Do you think we should wrap this live stream up now, or we've been going for a bit longer than again, we've been going for too long. But
it's my fault, mate. It's my fault.
I couldn't even keep the live stream down to 45 minutes when I did it myself either. I wasn't going for
it's hard. We probably need little electric buzzers implanted onto our bodies. If we go over a certain amount of time, the buzzer just goes off and it just conditioning just stops us going any further. It's, you know,
that'd be funny.
Someone here with it. Yeah.
The audience would probably like that.
Yeah, exactly. Adds the entertainment value, doesn't it? Or we could be doing it where you sat over a pool. So as soon as you go over a certain amount, you're getting wet. You don't want to get wet. You might have your best clothes on, so it's all about staying dry. So I'll stay under 3 minutes. If that's what you want, I'll do it. So.
I think we'll wrap this live stream up here. I think we've had a lot of good things to cover here. So yeah, thanks everyone who's been watching this. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't done so. And make sure to tune in next time, which is on Sunday at 8 p.m. UK time. We'll be covering the next important news topics of the week. So thanks for watching, guys, and make sure to tune in on Sunday, and we'll see you guys later.
Cheers, guys. Nice one.
Yeah, thank you, guys.